My name is Jessica, and I'm turning 23 this year. By the way, I'm not married. My family has a proud and long history. I was an only child and was sheltered, but I wasn't spoiled. My father was strict, and I believe I've grown into a responsible and sincere individual, if I may say so myself. About a year ago, I started dating a 27-year-old guy named Jake, whom my friend introduced to me, saying he's handsome. I was considering marriage and I was waiting for him to propose, but that moment never seemed to come. I always hoped he'd say, "Will you marry me?" soon. One day during our date, I decided to gently probe him about proposing. Can you tell me about your dreams, Jake?
My dream is to excel in my current job, get promoted, and eventually lead a big project with a team under me.
So, it's all about career advancement for you?
Well, when you put it that way, yeah. Sorry.
Jake's answer made me smile. What about marriage? Do you have any ideals? He pondered before answering.
I'd love someone who would warmly embrace me when I come home tired from work.
Don't you have any non-work related ideals?
Oh, I didn't think about it that way. My bad.
I think I'm the type to warmly welcome you. What do you think?
Maybe. But we won't truly know until we live together. There are things you can't predict.
Jake continued to evade my questions. Are you good with kids, Jake?
Oh, I suppose so.
So you're not sure?
Maybe. I'm sorry.
Our dates were always like this, but we continued to meet twice a week and enjoyed our time together. However, Jake's demeanor changed completely the day after my 24th birthday. Until then, I never mentioned my family or home to Jake, and he didn't show any interest either. My mother had always warned me about men who might be after our family's wealth, so I was cautious. But since I wished to marry him, I thought my birthday would be a good occasion to invite Jake to my home. Seeing my house, he couldn't hide his astonishment.
Jessica, you live in such a magnificent house. I'm a bit jealous.
Being modest, I replied, "It's just big and old, so it has its inconveniences." I never thought much of our house's luxury, so I just said, "A house is just a box. Come on in." When Jake and I entered, my mother was waiting. As we walked to the living room, Jake looked around uneasily. After taking a sip of the coffee served by our maid, he leaned back into the sofa. He sighed.
This living room is too big. It's bigger than all the rooms in my house combined.
I humbly replied again, "It's the happiness of the family that matters, not the size of the house of rooms."
I can't entirely agree. My mom would be shocked and scream if she saw this house.
Don't exaggerate.
I'm serious.
For the first time, my mother spoke. May I ask about your father's profession, Jake?
My father passed away 10 years ago.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Please, don't worry. My mother is healthy and works at a local supermarket.
Good health is the most important thing. The three of us enjoyed casual conversation. As the conversation progressed, my mother mentioned my father's lung cancer, and Jake expressed his sympathy. I could see my mother and Jake opening up to one another. It warmed my heart. However, Jake changed dramatically the next day. Until then, he never showed interest in my home, but now he was full of questions.
Your house is so luxurious. How big is the land?
I've never thought about it. I don't know.
Isn't it normal to know such things?
If I don't know, I don't know.
Well, if you don't know, you don't know. You're an only child, right?
Yes, I am, but why ask now?
Just curious.
Maybe it's my turn to greet your mother at your house?
Anytime. Don't worry about it. Some other time.
Do I not feel welcomed?
You're misunderstanding.
Then let's plan it. Jake's expression darkened.
I understand, but I can't promise when.
After that, Jake began to visit my house frequently. Unlike Jake from before, it seemed he was now eager to come to my place. Whenever we talked at my house, he would always ask about family relations, how the properties are managed, essentially focusing on the assets of our household. One day, feeling suspicious, I said, "Why do you keep asking about those things? It's like you're up to something." He looked startled for a moment, but quickly regained his composure, saying,
I was just curious. It's not like there's a reason.
Although Jake's replies were always the same, I began to feel that he might be plotting something. After a while, this happened. With a bright smile, Jake suddenly suggested that we live together, and I finally heard the long-awaited marriage proposal from him. Though I was undoubtedly happy, I replied, "Let's talk about it another time." When I got home, I immediately called my mother and told her about Jake's proposal. But rather than sounding joyful, my mother seemed worried. "Mom, is something wrong? You seem concerned." "Well, I got a call from Jake's mother, and she was inquiring a lot about our property. I thought it was a bit unusual." "Jake's mother too? Actually, Jake has been digging into the same matters with me. I wonder if there's an ulterior motive." "It might be risky to accept the proposal immediately." "You might be right. Maybe I don't really know Jake." "It seems so." After ending the call with my mother, I called Jake. "Jake, I just told my mother about your marriage proposal. She was really happy for us."
"Really? I'm so happy to hear that she's pleased."
"But she told me to get proper permission from my father before answering, so I can't give you a reply now. Can you wait a bit?" He sounded disappointed and said,
"Please don't make me wait too long."
"I'll try not to." Feeling disheartened, Jake hung up the phone early. The next day, I promptly visited the hospital where my father was admitted to discuss the proposal. "Dad, how are you doing?"
"I'm doing okay. Your mother mentioned it, but you wanted to discuss something with me, right?"
"Actually, I'm wondering if I'd receive a marriage proposal and I wanted to talk and report it to you."
"I trust the man you've chosen. Just be happy."
"But there's something that's been bothering me lately."
"What's that?"
"He's been persistently trying to gather information about our land and properties, like their location and who manages them."
"That does sound unusual."
You think so too, right? That's why I'm holding off on the marriage response."
"That's fine. Answer when you're truly confident in him."
"Thanks, Dad, I understand."
"I promise. I'll be discharged from the hospital before the day you wear your wedding dress."
That's reassuring to hear. Please, get well soon. After that conversation with my father, I left the hospital. I never imagined that our conversation would be the last one I had with my father. The week after visiting my father, I finally went to Jake's house. I had previously asked to visit, but he always came up with some excuse not to let me. However, this time he easily agreed, but I was able to go to his house. Jake had previously mentioned that his house was small, and indeed, compared to ours, it was a small and old-fashioned home. But to me, that didn't really matter. As Jake and I passed through the entrance and proceeded inside, Jake's mother greeted us. "Nice to meet you. My name is Jessica. Pleased to meet you."
"Welcome, Jessica. Jake often talks about you. Please, make yourself at home today."
Jake's mother warmly welcomed us and began to share stories from Jake's childhood. Just then, Jake went to the restroom.
"Jessica, what do you think of Jake?"
I was taken aback, but after a brief pause, I responded, "Yes, I feel he's very kind-hearted and trustworthy."
"Then, if he proposes, you'll say yes?"
I was surprised again and blurted out, "Yes, that's right." Immediately after saying that, I realized the weight of my words. Before I could correct myself, Jake returned, and his mother excitedly told him,
"Jake, Jessica says she'd accept your proposal."
His face lit up as he said,
"So you've finally made up your mind? Thank you."
I wanted to correct my statement and began, "That's not what I meant." But Jake interrupted.
"I don't think we need a lavish wedding. Just filling the marriage certificate is enough."
I was at a loss for words, unsure of what to say or how to react. The next day, I called my mother. "Yesterday, I went to Jake's house, and before I knew it, we were talking about getting married. Not a ceremony, just registering our marriage."
"Is that so? But what do you truly feel?"
Dad once said that if I felt I could trust Jake, I should marry him. The truth is, I'm still undecided.
"If you feel that way, you don't have to register the marriage."
"Is it okay to do that?"
"Don't worry, just don't submit the marriage registration to the office."
"But Jake will eventually find out."
"Just tell him you've submitted the registration. There won't be an issue."
"But won't that make me a liar? What if it causes problems later on?"
"When you truly trust Jake, you can secretly register the marriage. No one will notice."
I see. I decided to follow my mother's advice and informed Jake the next day. "Jake, have you signed the marriage license?" He joyfully showed me his signature. My heart ached slightly, but I saw this as a step towards a happy future and suppressed my feelings. We started living in the apartment I had always lived in because Jake said his place was too small for all three of us. Not long after, I received a call from my mother. My heart raced for some reason. The ringtone seemed to scream, "Hurry, pick up." I checked my phone and saw my mother's name. "What happened, Mom?" My voice quivered with anxiety. In between sobs, she said,
Your father collapsed suddenly and is now in the hospital.
Her words faded into cries. Without a word, I rushed to my father's hospital room. When I entered, my mother was holding my father's body, tears streaming down her face. The doctor's words were,
He passed away a little while ago.
Overwhelmed with grief, I hugged my cold father along with my mother. Everyone left the room. The next few days were filled with funeral preparations and paperwork. I was completely drained and lost my energy. I longed to hear my father's voice again, even if it was to scold me. One day, while I was in my father's room, my mother approached and told me,
Jessica, your father left you an inheritance.
Shocked, I couldn't find the words to respond. What? An inheritance?
It seems Dad mustered the last of his strength to write a will for Jessica. It details your inheritance here.
Tears streamed from my eyes at this revelation.
Actually, it's $2 million. Your father wanted to make sure you'd never be in need.
With a trembling voice, I replied,
I don't know how to handle such a large sum. It's okay. For now, let's deposit it in the bank.
All right. Receiving my father's inheritance, I suddenly became rich, but I was at a loss on how to use it. After a few days, once my emotions settled a bit, I returned to my apartment. Upon entering, I found Jake enjoying TV in the living room.
How are you feeling? Better?
Thank you, I feel much better. Even though I was filled with sadness, I decided to put on a brave face and smile. Then, on a weekend afternoon, a few days later, after I finished shopping and returned home, my mother-in-law was at my place, and Jake addressed me.
Transfer all the money you have to my mom's account right now.
I was taken aback. What are you talking about? I have no idea what you mean.
The money you have deposited in the bank.
Jake, how did you find out about my bank balance?
Your bank account document was in our drawer, wasn't it? I checked it.
I was shocked to discover Jake had gone through my bank document without asking. Is that even allowed?
Aren't we a couple? We should share everything.
That may be, but going through my stuff without permission? Isn't that breaking some rules?
What rules?
This conversation went on in circles. Then, at that moment, I was certain that Jake was not fit to be my husband. The mother-in-law, who had been listening, chimed in.
There's never a good outcome when a wife has money.
That was the last straw for me. Wait, I'm not even married yet.
What?
That's right, we're not officially married.
Don't be stupid. Didn't you sign the marriage registration?
Did you submit our marriage registration to the city office, Jake?
I didn't submit it, but I gave the filled-out form to Jessica, didn't I?
Yes, you did, but I haven't submitted it yet, so we're not legally married. Jake was so shocked that he sat down hard.
Jessica, you're full of surprises.
It's not like I tricked both of you. I just haven't submitted the marriage registration. Isn't going through my bank account without permission worse?
Anyway, let's register our marriage immediately.
I need to think about it.
Jessica, please.
Why do I have to deposit money into your mother's account? I'm not convinced.
Actually, I have a huge debt. That's why I wanted to ask for your help, sweetheart.
Stop calling me sweetheart like that. And why do I have to help you?
Because I thought if you became my wife, you'd help me out.
That's so selfish. Unbelievable.
Please help me, Jessica.
Why did you get into debt?
There's a lot to it. It's okay, Mom. I'll tell her. I was actually married before, and during the marriage, I lost a large amount of money on the stock market. Due to this trouble, I divorced my ex-wife. Anyway, she was arrogant and self-centered. Just by having an affair with another woman, she blamed me one-sidedly.
What does that have to do with me?
She found out my debts, and we decided to get divorced. I have to bear property division too.
Even if we get married, I won't pay a cent of that money. Do you still want to marry me?
Please, hear me out. I fought hard against the property division, but she had a top-notch lawyer, and in the end I had to sign.
I've listened, but I'm even more unconvinced. Why do I have to pay that money for your previous wife?
I thought if you became my wife, you'd definitely help me out.
Even if we get married, I won't contribute any money. Jake, with tears in his eyes, he said,
Please, be with me.
Please, marry him.
If you insist, shall I marry you? Hearing this, their faces seemed to brighten up. However, as I said before, even if we get married, I won't cover your debt, nor the property division. Is that still okay with you? Their faces darkened again, and this time Jake's mom said with tears in her eyes,
Jessica, won't you reconsider? You're our only hope.
Your pleas won't change my mind.
So, even if I beg like this, you won't listen?
No. Before he passed away, my father wished for me to marry someone trustworthy.
So you're saying I'm not trustworthy?
Of course I don't trust you. I have zero intention to believe in you right now. With a pained expression, Jake said,
I see. I didn't think you to be so heartless.
Neither did I think you'd rely on my assets. At that moment, Jake's mom shouted at Jessica with a frustrated face.
Get out of this house right now.
Madam, please, don't say such things. This is my house. It's under my name.
Jake, what's this about?
Didn't I tell you? The one who needs to leave isn't me, but you, and never show up again.
Got it. But I'll come to get my stuff later.
I don't want to see your face, so please, use a moving service.
You really are an ice queen. It's actually a good thing that Jake didn't end up with you.
Exactly as you say. I'm an ice queen. Now leave quickly. After such an exchange, they left Jessica's house with angry faces. Afterwards, Jessica went back to her parents' house and told her mother everything.
Really? He was like that? Good that you didn't marry him.
Yes, thinking of using my father's inheritance for his debt and property division is the worst.
You were not married this time, so it's all right now. Let's forget about it.
Right. I'll find someone even better next time.
You surely will.
Several months later, there was a sudden call from Jake. You don't need anything from me anymore, do you?
Well, yes, but can you lend me some money?
Really, you're so thoughtless. Why should I lend you money?
Just thought I'd ask. Never mind, it's okay.
Jake just said his piece and hung up. A few days later, I went to a shopping mall a little far away with a friend. The unexpected reunion happened when I was looking for the brand I wanted. In front of me, a man in slim work clothes and an older woman were doing garbage collection. I was distracted by clothes and accidentally bumped into the man, knocking over the garbage cart. In my panic, I looked at the man's face. To my surprise, it was Jake, and the woman collecting garbage next to him was his mother. I'm sorry, I didn't notice.
No, it's my fault. Are you okay? Are you hurt?
Jake surely looked at my face, but he didn't seem to recognize me at all. In a short time, Jake had become pale and emaciated. I worried he might be sick, but I convinced myself that he was someone I no longer had any connection with. He and his mother quickly picked up the fallen trash and walked towards the next corner. Their backs radiated both fatigue and despair.